or the bright blue sea, we stand to our guns all day. When at anchor we ride on the Portsmouth tide, we plenty of time for play. Ahoy, ahoy, Lyubomisrky. Ahoy, ahoy, on the bright blue sea, we stand to our guns all day. We sail the ocean blue, and our saucy ships of beauty, we're sober, mad, and true, and attentive to our duty. Our saucy ships of beauty, we're attentive to our duty. We're sober, mad, and true. We sail the ocean blue.
Madam, it has been represented to me that you are appalled by my exalted rank. I desire to convey to you officially my assurance that if your hesitation is attributable to this circumstance, it is uncalled for.
Oh, then your lordship is of the opinion that married happiness is not inconsistent with discrepancy in rank.
Oh, I am officially of that opinion.
That the high and the lowly may be truly happy together, provided that they truly love one another.
Madam, I desire to convey to you officially my opinion that love is a platform upon which all ranks meet.
Oh, I thank you, Sir Joseph. I did hesitate, but I will hesitate no longer. He little thinks how eloquently he's defeated his rival's cause.
Never mind the why and wherefore, love can never reign, and therefore, though his lordship's patience flighty, though stupendous be his brain, though her tastes are mean and flighty, and her fortune poor and plain.
Ring the merry bells on board ship, rend the air with warbling wild, for the union of her lordship with a humble captain's child,
For a humble captain's daughter,
For a gallant captain's daughter,
and the Lord rules the water.
and the tar across the water.
Let me hear with joy belated rent of the air above, all the union of the maiden will and her loves in love. Never mind the why and wherefore, love can leather rings and never, though you're not a good relation, in my second scarcely pass, though you occupy a station in the lower middle class. Ring the merry bells and bullshit, ready every rolling one, for the union of the lordship with a humble captain's child,
for a humble captain's daughter,
For a gallant captain's daughter,
and the Lord rules the water.
and a tar across the water.
Let's hear with joy belated rent of the air above, all the union of the maiden with a man who falls in love.
Never mind why and wherefore, love can never rings and therefore, I ain't bitching you
Ring the merry bells and fortune, rend the air with rolling wild, for the union of the lordship with a humble captain's child,
for a humble captain's daughter,
For a gallant captain's daughter,
and the Lord rules the water.
and the tar across the water. Let's hear with joy belated,
songs in air above, that's
for the union of the maiden.
For the union of my lordship, rends of the air above, for the man who owns a love, rend the songs the air above, for the man who owns a love.
Hello, and Thank you for joining us for OMP at Home, Sullivan at a Distance. I'm Schuyler Kelley, and with me are my co-host Rachel Pasternak and original cast members Mary Lyubomisrky, Amanda Lobaugh, Terry Benedict, and Ron Herman, as well as Patti Montrois, who's a surprise guest today. 2 months ago, OMP had big plans for our first production at our new home at Downtown United Presbyterian Church. We had been going to put on a piece titled Sullivan with Sullivan, The Zoo, and a rarely performed cantata called On Shore and Sea. We hope to finally perform these for you in the winter season of 2021, which would put the show around February, so stay tuned to our webpage and our Facebook page for more information on that. In the meantime, we're pleased to be able to present to you our 1994 production of The Zoo. This production was directed by Byron Wilmot. We'll all be watching with you, so stay tuned after the show. We'll take a 10-minute break and return for a discussion with these panelists. This is a little bit different for us. This broadcast is coming to you for free, as do all of our shows. But when you exit the auditorium, you're not going to find a fishbowl. We put on all of our shows for free for the enjoyment of our community. And that's all supported by our generous patrons and by donors like you. So if you feel moved to contribute, we would invite you to visit www.off-monroeplayers.org/patrons. That's OFF-MONROE players.org/patrons. Now, I hope you know where your fire exits and your bathrooms are. Please feel free to use flash photography and turn on any noise-making devices. And without any further ado, let's get watching the show.
rich accents tender make my bosom swell with deep devotion.
Thomas dear, Thomas dear. Oh, Thomas Brown, withdraw the frown, the shadows on your brow. Oh, from the town to the foot and down, yes, oh, Thomas Brown, withdraw the In fond pursuit of my young man, shall I the beast beguile? Come from my Schuyler reign and take the slippery crocodile. Gallop zebra, leap gazelle, charge rhinoceros. Oh, find him still alive and well, the duck-billed platypus. Run far and free, a chimpanzee, investigate for me. He tigers growl, he snakes are boiled, to arms the octopus. What deep beneath the rivers roil, thou hippopotamus? Soaring eagle, tall giraffe, candy that's mine. I would not write his epitaph, indeed I'd rather die. Concerns the kangaroo, the worst may not be true. Oh, warthog kind, tell me a clue. Where is he?
Who?
Asclepius. What's that?
I cannot say.
Say, have you seen my husband pass this way?
Hold!
1 feet from the company tart to the kidney pie. I swallowed as much as I could have pie. How better would man his affection prove than by stuffing himself for the sake of his love with a bottle of pop? I quench my thirst, and now will you please? I'm ready to burn. here. He's up here. Up here in disguise. Oh yes, he's up here in disguise. We can tell by the look of his eye. Oh yes, he's up here in disguise. We can tell by the look of his eye. He's up here, up here, up here. He's up here, up here, up here, up here, up here, up here, up here. Pray tell me how you find me in this place. You're better now, as time will show. Your grace is gracious grace. Your grace? Your grace is gracious grace. Discovered, well, I confess. Yes, I'm a man of hiding grief. That we all feel, that we all feel. A member of the aristocracy. Oh, let us kneel. Nay, do not kneel. In search of virtue have I wandered here, and found it in this atmosphere. Oh, let us kneel. Nay, do not kneel. Oh, let us kneel. Ladies and gentlemen, hear, hear. Accustomed as I am to public speaking and speaking, I fear overpowered, no, overwhelmed on this occasion. Thank you. And I also feel that your feelings that they feel. Thank you. If you could feel. Thank you. If you could feel as I feel. Hear, hear. Thank you. I hear, hear. I thank you. Hear, hear. We gather from what you have said that Eliza you fondly adore, that you worship and love her instead of the ladies you worshiped before, that she is a realized dream of your life and whatever her station, by marriage you show your esteem for her virtue and high reputation, for her virtue and high reputation. Precisely, it was my intention that the sense of my words should be such. Your wonderfully quick comprehension and intelligence pleases me much. And so, if that be the case, and in states we at last understand, we now will suggest to your grace to offer the lady your hand. Your wishes with pleasure I meet. Give me time just to change my condition and offer with joy at her feet myself and my due position. Our wish is delighting to me. Give him time just to change his condition and offer with joy at her feet. Be himself and his true proposition. Offer with joy himself and his true proposition.
simple little child, and me ways are nice and mild, and I never harm a soul in all me life. And I don't know what is wrong, yes, me principles are strong, all this hemisphere of wickedness and strife. I have bracelets, it is true, and I diamonds just a few, that are locked up in a chest and drawers at home. And a dressing case with tops of gold and diamond drops. I haven't an idea from whence they come. And the bouquets come in shells of the most expensive flowers that modern garden market can provide. Why, it happened once last year that a peacock did appear, the very best of thoroughbreds to ride. I have dresses by the dozens, but they're given me by cousins who have known me ever since I was that high. And the tickets to the play are sent me every day. But I'm sure I never can imagine why. To Greenwich in the season I have been, and for the reason that I did not like me cousin to offend. So I saved his reputation to his very great vexation by driving down to London with his friend. On more than one occasion, after very great persuasion, I have driven down to Richmond with his brother. And once I remember, in the middle of September, to Hampton Court I travelled with another. It is true I went to Dover when the season was just over, but then it was with George, I should say Harry. I mean Charlie. Was it Thomas Polly? Was the only man I ever meant to marry. Well, it might have been the other, or it might have been his brother, but neither would I ever bear to part. But whichever of the two, it really wasn't true that I loved him from the bottom of me heart.
Stay tuned. After a 10-minute intermission, we'll be back with our panel.
Ron. Oh my
Hello,
God.
we're back with our panelists. I'm Schuyler Kelley. There's Rachel Pasternak. And we have Terry Benedict, Ron Herman, Mary Lyubomisrky, Amanda Lobaugh, and Patti Montrois with us. All, except for Rachel and I, original cast members of some original board members, some original members. So, Terry, you're an original member. You were around for since 1977, the very first show. You were on our. Obviously, everyone was on our steering committees. Patti told us that last night. I had a good question about this, and now I'm blanking on it. Steering committee comprised everyone. Oh, what led to the incorporation? Who came up with the idea? Let's form a board and make this official.
Not it, Patti.
Well, we did it originally so that we could go for grants and get the status to apply for them, which is originally what we had done.
That's a good reason. There you go.
Yeah.
So we had been talking right before we came back in here. We were talking about Byron. We started talking about some cast party stuff, which maybe we'll get into again. But before that, we were talking about Byron, who was the director of the show, Byron Wilmot, who unfortunately passed away in 2012, I believe. Tell us about Byron, about his directorial style, about him as a person. Any of you?
He was tremendously creative and meticulous. When he was directing a fall show, he spent the entire summer preparing for it. And he was ready on the first rehearsal. He knew exactly what he wanted, and he had everything planned out. And it was just a joy to be in one of his shows.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to say everything was like a work in progress. He's like, this is the plan, but he also let you kind of develop as an actor. He'd be like, try this. Okay, now try it this way. You know, the example I gave last night was, here, try chewing on this radish. Not loud enough. Here, try the carrot. No, celery. Like, okay, I'm like gnawing and gnawing. He's like, crunch louder. I want more rabbit. What was the rabbit? Bugs Bunny. More Bugs Bunny. More obnoxious. Louder, chew. And I'd be like, I'm chewing. But he made it fun and it was entertaining.
He loved physical comedy too, and he also had a lot of dry, wry humor. And that was him off of stage too, for sure. Like we were very, very close friends, and I was very much not dry humor, and he was very dry humor. But it so worked on stage so well. Just the bit of handing the mandolin across, the physical humor of Pam pulling me off the chair, of Amanda getting shoved backwards. All the physical humor stuff that when I taught elementary school, kids loved that kind of stuff. Adults loved it too. And Byron was an elementary school teacher as well. And so it was something that he put into a lot of his shows, is that physical part of the show, which was very funny. But it always had a dry element to it that was always dry humor.
Well, and something that one of our longtime members was texting during the showing was how well he incorporated the ensemble into the show. We know that we can never do a show. You know, the leads get all the glory, but it's really the ensemble that they draw so much attention. And when a director can really incorporate them into the story and further it, you know, our ensemble members in the show, what was that experience like for you?
Mary was pregnant.
Yeah, we figured it out. I was 4 months pregnant with my son Michael, and so that dress kept getting tighter and tighter. And as Amanda observed, the waistband kept hitching up higher and higher. But back to Byron, I just love the vignettes he created all around the stage with the leads and the ensemble. And as an ensemble member, it certainly gave you a piece of the story to own, and I think it created a much nicer picture for the audience.
Yes.
Sometimes in our modern productions, we have a very sort of decentralized sort of style to our productions, where there's a director. The director's not always involved in the costuming choices and the makeup choices and the set choices. One of our viewers asked, Amanda DeBruin asked, whether Byron had much to do with the costume and choices and the makeup choices in particular.
Oh, yeah.
He did.
As a matter of fact, I think he borrowed a bunch of that stuff. Yeah, I mean, I know for a fact most of those costumes on stage are not OMPs. A lot of them he made for other shows or borrowed from somewhere. I even know that bear head he got from some school somewhere. I was telling some people earlier, I know that a lot of the costumes also were right before then.
The costumes were
somehow got his hands on those when they went out of business, and that's how we got some of the costuming.
We lost you for a moment there. The costumes were what for a minute?
From Brighton Theater Guild.
Ah, right.
They had gone out of business right before that. I think the town just, I don't know what happened to Brighton Theater Guild. They were gone.
Their costumes were up for grabs.
And he grabbed them.
Someone, Stephanie Schneiderman, mentioned that it was 2014 that he passed away. This was, by the way, Salem. She also thought that this wasn't Salem. This was in Salem United Church of Christ at this point.
Mm-hmm. It was our second show there.
Yeah, and you had said we just got through a move here. We moved from Salem into downtown United Presbyterian Church. In January, we hired movers. Then you didn't hire movers, but you did move in January. And you said you moved in a blizzard?
Yes.
It was freezing.
I bet.
Caffrey borrowed trucks from the furniture doctor, and I still remember it was like negative temps out or something crazy.
It sounds like a last movie.
Oh, it was horrible cold. It was
Last movie.
yes. Yeah, it was very, very cold. Oh my gosh. And I remember we had to move all the clothing donations and the food donations and all the stuff that was in the side areas off the stage out of the way, clear all that, shove everything in there, all from this like furniture truck.
Wow. Jim Caffrey built the set for at least part of it. He helped construct it. So Amanda DeBruin was also asking about the gate, whether it's flush to the back of the stage. We saw that it's not. It's only about 2 feet away, though. So Ron had to kind of just cram himself down in there behind it.
He was skinnier then.
Oh, my God.
Oh, and he had a lot of hair too.
Right now.
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
So a question I have for all of you, sometimes we're our own worst critics as performers. I know I've come off stage and been like, what did I just do? And then other nights you're like, wow, that really gelled. Watching this again, this many years later, did anything stand out to you that you remember just, I couldn't get it right, and then I got it right, right before showtime? Or was there a moment with another cast member that just sticks out? I know Amanda mentioned you worked on one particular thing that Byron kept, asking you to all do at the same time. So what's a moment maybe that stood out for you as, we got that, we nailed that?
When Anne goes across the stage and goes, ah! And then she looks at the audience and goes, I got it. And then she kneels and goes, Father. I love that bit. I think that's a great bit. I tried to steal that any chance I can in blocking. I'm sure that was all Byron. We didn't have videos we can steal from back then.
Yeah.
No.
Now we have quite a lot. 40 years worth. 30 anyhow. So that was a real noose, huh? I'm sorry, I'm getting a little off topic. But I wrote in big letters at the top of my thing, "Real noose?" ? Like what? You were standing on such a flimsy chair. That must have been. Weren't you scared? Weren't you worried you were going to hurt yourself?
Being a tenor in Gilbert and Sullivan stuff, you have to hang yourself on many occasions. So
True.
But I do remember it was one of those cane back chairs, and they were really tippy. And I kept thinking, when this is around my head, oh my God, if the chair does fall, I am going to hang myself. And hopefully the person on the other end of the line is not holding on really tight and I'll just flop to the ground. But
yeah.
It never happened. So
good. Yeah.
Terry was holding the rope. I remember that part.
Yes.
Well, I've lived to this point when I've gained weight and lost all my hair, according to this group. So thank heaven.
Oh.
We love you, Ron.
Tell them about the cast party we were just talking about, Ron.
Yes, Terry, for the viewer, Terry Benedict here, he was looking through his old journals to see if he could find anything to jog his memory on the zoo here. All he found was a reference to Ron Herman's cast party, which is going back to something we were talking about yesterday.
And I have a horrible memory. So I know at the time I lived on Genesee Park Boulevard. So the one thing that these guys would bring up that they reminded me of, this might have been the cast party when I went upstairs in the attic and we might have been doing some liquid refreshments in my attic. And up there for a while because when I came down the stairs, my living room and dining room furniture had been switched into the opposite rooms. So everything except my china cabinet with my grandmother's china and crystal in it had not been moved, but everything else had been moved in the entire rooms. So my living room was now sitting in my dining room and my dining room was sitting in my living room, all except for the china cabinet.
So you can hear Ron scream.
That might have been the same party that someone hid some kind of candy around my house. It was like something marshmallowy. And then it was literally like 6 months later that I see something oozing down my front porch. It was a marshmallow. In the summertime when the sun came out, and it melted. The marshmallow was literally dripping down the front of the window from getting so hot. So in November, it obviously was okay and lasted the summer. Another fun cast party, but it's all for the good of the fun.
For the good.
I remember hiding cans of Spam in Jane's house one time. That was fun.
Toilet paper too.
Spam everywhere, and I remember Ron was like, "Why is there Spam?"
Wait,
finding it for months afterwards, hidden behind books.
All my underwear out of my dresser drawers, put it in a Ziploc bag, and put it in my freezer. Actually, look for underwear. Someone said, "Look in your freezer." It was frozen, frozen solid. Yeah.
And speaking of freezers. Speaking of freezers, we were always going over to Bill Hammond's place and finding the same box of frozen peas.
Oh, they used to date it. They would date it to see if he ever ate it.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny.
Wow.
How many dates did it accrue? I don't suppose we still have that box. That would be fun. But
Oh my God.
It was like 4 or 5.
I'm sure he must.
Oh, it was years and years and years.
There was at least 4 or 5 years worth written on that box, plus that unopened present in his closet that he,
Yeah. Which is probably still there.
And
yeah, he didn't know who it was from, so he wasn't going to open it.
And the old Christmas tree that had died, but he didn't want to take it out of the house, so it literally sat there in a little planter by his front door, dead.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
So, Terry, we spoke a little bit about this at the very beginning, and so Stephanie Schneiderman asked if we can talk about the Toaster Award and other sort of traditions like that. The Toaster Award, there was an award before the Toaster Award, right?
Right. The board had decided we have to have an award for people who deserve such a thing. And we called it the Somebody Please Think of a Better Name for This Award. And then it was during I think the 20th anniversary. I'm not sure which anniversary. One of the committees preparing the anniversary festivities came to a board meeting and reported that they had thought of a new name for that award, the Toaster Award. And the reason behind that, someone else can explain.
I vote Ron.
It's right, Ron. You can tell us why it's called the Toaster Award.
Oh, well, it was a show we did at the old church at New Life Presbyterian, and it was a show I was in, and I was the tenor lead, and Anne was playing opposite me again. And we were coming out on stage. Gosh, I want to say it was Rutherford. I don't remember what it was.
Yeoman.
It was Yeoman. It was Yeoman.
And we were backstage, and you had to be either in the smelly room off stage, or you were in the hallway, or you were in the kitchen. And I was in the kitchen ready to come out for the curtain call, or the very end of the show or something. It was near the end of the show. And I said, I should take her a gift, a wedding gift. So we literally unplugged the toaster from the kitchen at New Life Presbyterian. And I presented her with this toaster. Well, of course, she totally, completely lost it. And so did the whole cast. It was like this hysterical moment. And after that, it became a tradition that you'd always present the ingenue lead with the toaster and bring it out to her as like the wedding gift, because everyone always ends up married at the end. And so you'd give her the toaster at the end as the gift. So that's where it originated. That's where the toaster idea originated, but then it turned into an award at some point. So
So in 1997, it was the 20th. It was 97 that it was named the Toaster Award. Interestingly, the records of the winners go back to 94 with Bob Weeks. Do you know who maybe would have won before that at all, Terry? Or anyone else?
I couldn't tell you.
No, okay. It was worth a shot.
Right.
I'm sure there were many deserving people prior to that.
Yes, definitely. 100%.
Schuyler, did you mention someone was asking about makeup and hair and how that kind of comes together for a show?
Yes. Yeah. We Byron had a lot to do with that. We actually spoke about that, I think. I believe we mentioned it. Yeah.
When I first met Patti, she was doing hair for Grand Duke. Because you had a busted knee then or something like that. So you were doing everybody's hair.
Yeah, that's how I was participating. Yeah, because I had to drop out of the show, and it was Byron who asked me to do that.
Was that in
help out with hair and makeup?
That was 1992.
92. No, that was 88.
Grand Duke. I don't remember.
It was 88 is when I broke my knee. So.
Oh, you could have met. So you were involved. You just weren't in the shows before,
right?
Amanda.
Yeah, I had been, and then when I injured my knee, I had to drop out of the show, and I was so bummed because it was one of the ones that we, at the time we didn't do often. One of the less frequently done shows.
Orphan, often.
Orphan. So yeah, I remember Byron asked, and that was kind of like the beginning of all that too. Like, okay, sure.
And now Patti does beautiful full face things and lessons on how to do our makeup for each of these shows. So really, the roots and the evolution of that, we are so thankful to you for providing that guidance.
It's the It's the only reason I had my makeup looked any good at all during Gondoliers. Patti.
So what are your fondest memories of this particular production? I know working with Byron, working with each other, the cast parties, obviously. We talked a little bit last night on the panel about why you keep coming back to OMP, but just watching this as someone who it's still technically in the grand scheme of things is new to the group. It was like watching an old family movie, quite honestly, for someone like me. When you watch this, like, what do you feel? People have been texting me, I'm getting sentimental. I'm getting a little emotional watching this. How were you feeling watching it tonight?
It was very
exciting.
Yes, it was exciting doing such an unusual piece. Byron worked hard finding the score, getting permission to use the score. It had been lost for a long, long time. So it's very exciting to give our audience a novel production like this. And it was very fun to be part of it.
Yeah, it had never been done in Rochester or New York, as far as I know.
Yeah, and Virgil shared with us and I'll try to put it somewhere for our viewers, a clipping of a 1991 newspaper that with a big ad about it wasn't an ad, an article about the zoo and Off-Monroe Players. With just that, it said it had never been performed.
Yeah, it was
in the premiere.
Trial by jury. It was paired to trial by jury that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
had done before, but zoo was brand new.
There's something cool about this particular music. I mentioned last night that they seem to spoof a lot of the other Sullivan songs. Like when my first song starts, it's really hard not to start singing "A Wandering Minstrel." Exactly this with bum 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 bum, and other songs are total knockoffs of other shows. But for me, I come from a singing family, and they call us the Von Herman family singers, and our voices blend so well together because we've sung together for so long. But I think because so much of OMP has become a family over time, for me, this show is 6 years after I joined the group. And so for me, I'd learned to sort of, as much as I can, blend in. Really, the voices blend in beautifully together. And you really blend like you're a family. But I think it goes further than just because we've sung together for so long. I think it's because we mentioned this last night. We are like a family. I mean, these people are not just people I perform with. They're my friends that I care deeply about, that I would do almost anything for. So I think there's a blending of voices as much as there's a blend of our emotions. And I think you can't overscore that enough because it's when you care about the people you're on stage with personally, you put it out there for them because you want it to be a great product, like you do anything for your family. So like, it's not just getting out there and being like, I'm going to sound good because I want it's like, no, we want to be good because we're working together on this. And the zoo was a great, because like Terry said, it had never been done before. So although I hadn't done a ton of shows, it was cool and short and abbreviated, but also a really great example of Sullivan music, which I thought was extraordinary.
Well said.
So
Well said.
how old do you guys, this was another question from the YouTube comments a while ago, how old do you guys think your characters were supposed to be?
Oh, God.
Well, I was supposed to be a schoolgirl.
Yeah.
I think most of the principals would usually are going to be like early 20s or, barely 20. But the problem is when you do these shows, number one, you're not finding a bunch of high schoolers to do these shows. And so sometimes you have 40 and 50-year-olds playing, 18 and 20-year-old roles. We said Mary and Amanda and Patti and I were all 30 right when this was done. We had all just turned 30. So, and, so that was, by OMP standard, that's relatively young. So we were pretty darn close to the ages we actually should have been playing. So we could still probably play the same parts we played. Play them now.
And I was a size 8. Oh.
T Kelley 11 asked, she said, so Patti and Ron joined at the same time? No, Patti joined in 1982 and Ron joined in 86. So
We just happen to be the same age.
Right.
Along with like half the other group at the time, it seemed like too.
I know. There was a ton of us.
We're all in our 30s.
I know.
Well, when this show was done.
I see Stephen Gullo in the chat, and it reminded me, you mentioned that Byron had called the sailors the Randy Sailors.
Oh, Terry,
to this day, Bill Hammond calls Steve Gullo Randy.
That's part of that whole family business.
Mm-hmm.
Nicknames for each other.
Yeah. He calls me Sky King. Come out of the blue of the western sky. It's an old radio show.
Hi.
Oh, we have another panelist.
Best panelist, Mr. Georges Francois. Just like those things you see on TV where people's pets join in on office meetings. And there he was. Always has something to say.
So, Patti, your father designed all of the. He designed it too. He painted all of the signs for this show that were on stage. We saw the Flamingo Pit. I almost called it the Flamingo Pit. We used to hang it over our orchestra for years since I've been in the group. But
right.
The Flamingo Pit sign, the refreshment sign. You get a lot of compliments. Can you talk about that at all? Your father's work?
Yeah, my dad made his living as a graphic designer, as a graphic artist for many, many years. He's insanely talented. Oh, no, I'm going to get mushy. I know. It's like, he
he did the sandwich boards. We used to have lots of.
Yep, he did all the sandwich boards that we used to put out front. And for years, he did our program cover work. And
banjo or something at one point in the pit or something.
Yep, he's an insanely talented musician as well. He could play almost any stringed instrument. He played a 5-string banjo, all types of guitar, a mandolin. I mean, he oozes art everywhere, out of every orifice of his body. He's just,
Well, did he design our logo? Didn't he design our logo?
And so whenever we needed extra signs for like different set pieces, he would I'd be like, Dad, could you do this? Or the group would ask him if he would do it. And when I directed Rudda Gore in 2015, 14, 15, the last time, a few years ago, I asked him, I said, I need a little bit of a Fred sign. I need another one. So he did my Murgatroyd's bait and tackle shop sign. And so I still have several of his signs of his little ones like that he made. And I have them lined up and going down the steps to my basement. I have a shelf there and they line up and it's my Fred art gallery. And so when we moved and we had the flamingo pit sign, I'm like, that comes home with me. So I can add it to the gallery. So that's why
That's why you have it now.
Yeah.
We don't need a flaming go pit anymore.
No, I can always come back for visitations, but yeah. So he's been the artist of the group for many years. Like I said, he designed the logo for the group. He did the sandwich board signs. So he's been around for doing a lot of stuff for us for a long time.
What do you know when he designed the logo? It must have been after 91, as I noticed the logo on the VHS is quite different. It's a mask with ribbons coming off of it.
Yeah, I think we might have done that for our 20th anniversary.
It was an anniversary.
It
was an anniversary thing. Because remember voting on it?
Because we said we had to, what we wanted to have something that was more recognizable from a marketing standpoint too, going forward for the years to come. And
yeah, I remember voting on it. There were like 2 or 3 different options.
Yeah.
One with the little children. I was like, no,
Who designed the original one?
Too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And talking about the design on that, and it was a nice memory to have.
Do you know who designed the original one? Like the mask with the ribbons that's on it's on this tape. That's why I was curious.
I think didn't Michelle Denver come up with that? To put it something
that would make a
on
certain
the tapes.
kind of sense. Yeah.
I think that's just his Morning Star, Mountain Star. What was the name of the company?
Oh, that could be, yeah.
Enterprise.
I think that's just Fordham Enterprises' his logo. I think that was
maybe.
Oh, could it? Is it? I have a tape here, and
I went through several transformations over the years. We had different logos, and for a while we had the whole list of characters of the little trail of Gilbert and Sullivan characters.
Well, that was us.
That was kind of our logo for a bit.
I think I stole that.
Oh,
It was on our pens and it was on the water bottles. Oh, the lovely water bottles. On there. And then someone said, "Where'd you get it?" I said, "I found it in a book." And they're like, "Isn't that illegal?" And I'm like, "Maybe." I didn't know it was copyrighted.
some years ago, when you guys went to the Gilbert and Sullivan Festival, it was like in Ohio or something, in Gettysburg. You bought me back. It was actually a prize for something, but I got a shirt from there. You bought back with those same characters on it. A black shirt.
Was it the one that goes like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I bought that from another group who I think stole it from somewhere.
The same book.
So Brian Smith just texted in and said the first logo and the one on the video was from Nancy and Michael.
Michelle.
Yeah.
Nancy and Michelle Denbar.
Yep.
So you're right.
So one of our historians, one of the OGs of OMP, confirmed that.
Suzanne Bell is asking, does anyone know who the woman with the low-hanging hat?
With the what?
The low-hanging hat or shawl.
That's Lynette Blake.
Lynette Blake. Okay.
Yep.
There you go.
The old lady, right?
The old lady.
Hunched, she said, short, hunched over.
She
can't
stayed
see her
in
face.
character, but it was Lynette Blake. Because she was, I think, a lead in Trial by Jury that year.
If
she was the lead, she would have tried to have been more non-observant.
I think she might have been. I think you're right.
Because anyone who is the lead in the other show would be the chorus in the other show. Except for Ron Herman, who decided not to do the other show.
What?
I think I had church commitments.
Oh, that's fair.
Oh, the church excuse.
So I'm looking up who was in that trial.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain if it was Lynette and she played the bride, she would have won.
She played the bride.
Nondescript in the background of the chorus for the show.
It was Lynette. Yep. So there you go, Lynette Blake. Sleuths.
Do we have any other online questions from viewers?
one person at Amanda DeBruin again. Can we order OMP merch and have it shipped? That's a question for the board. We're gonna have to get back to you on that one. I think I don't know the answer really, but
you can order Girl Scout cookies.
you can. Yes, buy Girl Scout cookies.
That's a perk for Aunt Amanda DeBruin. I ordered my Girl Scout cookies.
I got some of them.
I'd like to revisit something that was anyone else interested with this? Fred Montroy playing musical instruments out of every orifice of his body.
What?
No, he oozed talent. He oozed talent.
This panel, no one else made a face except Ron Herman. I was like,
oh, I was making a face.
Of course, Ron Herman does.
I know. It's like
He does. He has more talent in his pinky.
So you guys, I don't know if you remember this, but I was thinking about, there was at one point a rubber chicken that always showed up during a dress rehearsal. Does anybody remember that?
It's like the toaster, where you have the toaster and the rubber chicken. They both show up.
Happens, yep.
Yesterday,
The rubber chicken dates back to the first Mikado.
Oh, that
goes
far.
way back. Yeah.
Really? What was its origin?
It was a prop. We were going for a cheap laugh in an early scene, and I forget the circumstances, but we had this rubber chicken, and it was a cheap laugh.
Well, speaking of props, I was talking about Bodie earlier. She was very clever at making props.
She was amazing, yes.
Was she an engineer or something? I don't remember. What was
She
her
was a
trade that
nurse.
She was so clever.
Yeah,
She was a nurse and then an engineer. Yeah, I remember her talking about saying the similarities between being a nurse and then an engineer when the body was, just basically the same thing as like
It's a real complicated
manufacturing
machine.
cars. They always an engine. They all run the same way. I was like, wow.
Would Bodie
And I
have,
was like, never heard that analogy before.
would Bodie have created any of the props we saw in tonight's performance?
Maybe that flamingo.
There was a flamingo on stage on house left, stage right in a cage. You only saw it in like one or two shots, but
It was the most dead looking thing.
she was definitely Randolph Monroe by '94 for sure.
Oh, I just remember her sitting around
We're still
making
there.
props and drinking that giant 2-liter thing of RC cola. Just sitting in the back, chugging cola and making things that would go explode and stuff. She was very good.
Go on.
Well, she made the very famous sheep for Iolanthe.
The sheep.
Remember that?
She
What's
made
her name?
Private Willis's hat.
Yep.
The beef eater.
What's it called? The guard guy.
Yeah.
And
Beef
Great
eater's
guard.
cap.
she made his hat. We still have that hat. And she made that teapot that exploded in Dad's face and scared the crap out of him every night.
Huh.
He'd be like, #1. He was terrified of that thing.
How did it work? Do you know? Why was it so?
It was switches with bombs and plumes.
Wow. It was
And he'd have to
actually.
just hit a switch, and he never knew how much stuff she put in there. He'd be like, #1. He was terrified. My mother was like, you never knew if he'd have eyebrows. You never knew what.
Was that bear head? Was that a prop or was that a costume piece? At the end you chase.
the costume.
Yes. Oh, it was
Still
a costume
there.
piece. It is. We still have
Well,
that.
it's not there right now. I lent it to a guy out by Gate Singers for a fundraiser, and then we had the whole pandemic and it shut out.
Okay.
but-
Yeah. We don't want to.
Man borrowed it. I never got to find out if he actually put on the talent show. But I know back, I have his name.
We don't need a plague mask back right now.
No hurry
No.
returning costumes right now. I'm good.
So Amanda DeBruin was asking, what was it like inside the mask?
Oh, that bear hat. I was talking about Private Will's thing.
Oh no, I meant the bear.
It smelled.
Yeah.
It smelled and it was very hot and I couldn't see anything. That was a good thing that David Schaefer, for some reason, I could spot him. That's all I had to do was find David Schaefer and not trip down the steps.
Yeah. Were those,
But boy, it smelled and it was stuffy, not pleasant.
I'll have to go back and watch. Those were steps, huh? It wasn't a ramp at the time.
Well, no, it was steps from the back of the stage down. I had to make my way through the crowd and then run down the ramp. No, hopefully not tripping.
Goes right back to our long-standing tradition of putting ourselves in danger for the craft.
We were younger then. It didn't hurt so much when you fell.
Yeah.
So we had Stephanie Schneiderman asks if we can talk about our early days at Salem. We had just moved to Salem in a blizzard, and right before the Pirates, which was the show before that, before the Zoo in '94. Pirates '94. We had moved in. What was the feeling about how the group was going, the direction the group was moving in, and about Salem itself? And
it was exciting. We hated to leave New Life. It was a wonderful home, but we had to. So we come to this new venue, and I remember our initial concerns were mostly concerning the acoustics, because that is an echoey hall when there's not many people in it. But it turned out once you fill it with an audience, it sounds great. So
I remember thinking we were so blessed with space because the costumes alone were kept underneath a stairwell at New Life. And when we got to Salem and we had a whole room just for costume and it was like unbelievable because
and I think Dave Schaefer at Caffrey built whole shelving systems down there too, and it was wonderful. Rolling racks and all this stuff. It was great.
Crowded so much before, but I remember, Terry, I agree. It's like when we left, I was so sad to leave because that intimacy we had at New Life was never captured again, which I really hope is going to get captured again at Doopsy because it's a little bit more intimate space and Salem's so spread out width-wise. And it was so intimate. The people who said
it was intimate. Guys and girls changed their costumes in the same room.
But if you were in the front row at New Life, you were in the show. I mean,
you were spit on.
In the show, yeah.
Yep.
And
little children could look up your skirt on stage. I remember that too.
Friday night when we did shows Friday night, I hate fish, and everyone breathing on it, they all smelled like fish fry. I couldn't get it. Like that's how close you were. You could smell their breath and all that fish fry. I was like gonna throw up through the whole Friday night performance. Anyway, that's the side, but whatever. So sometimes that intimacy did play against us. So maybe a little space like at Salem was a blessed thing, like for the last few years, the last 25 years.
Well, the nice thing too about going to Salem is that we, tripled our seating capacity, which was nice. So we didn't have to turn people away. Even at Salem, our first few years, we had such large audiences. I still remember we had to limit the number of
we started doing our own
audiences.
refreshments then too. We didn't used to do the refreshments prior to that.
Oh,
well,
cider and donuts was prior to that.
We used to do refreshments at New Life.
Yes.
Was that the
more
cheesecake?
than cider and donuts?
Yes, we took it over from the church people there.
Was that the
because they used to. Yeah, we started with the cheesecakes and doing that kind of stuff. When we took it over from the church, they used to do just simple stuff, which was fine, just the, cookies and juice kind of thing. And then it kind of evolved over the years, and it's still evolving.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, currently, it's cookies and juice again, more or less. But
sometimes the
from
simpler
now on,
the
it's
better.
probably going to be pre-wrapped everything.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, moving forward, individually wrapped things and sanitary conditions. So,
which people won't like, but if history is anything to say,
we used to get rebellions on people if they didn't get the BJ's cookies.
Yeah.
Writing in upset, where are the BJ's cookies?
The first time I did Gondoliers, we did it at Rapa at the West Main Street Theater. It must have been East Main, the East Main Theater there. And that was the main complaint. We couldn't serve our regular cookies there, and people hated it. They just did not like having to unwrap their individual cookie. But,
Creatures of habit.
well,
so I have one more question. When you look back on the body of work that OMP has achieved over all these years with moves and bringing in new life and new blood and yet keeping with these old traditions, what makes you most proud to be a member of this group?
I think I spoke about this last night. The longevity of the members and the inclusiveness of the group, and I think that's what keeps the longevity. Is the inclusiveness. Is that we people like to just keep coming back to be part of the family, and continue to build on those relationships and expose them to especially the younger generation. You know, we love to see new people and include them and have them hopefully experience the same experiences that we had so that they can carry it on for future generations. You know,
that kids can be introduced to the theater. So before you pay that, $80 ticket to go see Lion King, let's see if they can sit through our show for one act. And be like, if you can sit through this intermission and behave yourself, then maybe we'll consider Lion King. But even if they want to, sit through the first act for one night, kid gets tired, they can come back and see act 2 the next day, and they're not going broke doing that, which is nice too.
Yes.
Wonderful kid things on Mother's Day where the kids will bring their mom to the show and they'll buy them a cookie.
But I think it's
taking you to a show and we're going to get you a cookie.
But to go and see quality theater that you don't pay for, I mean, you can leave a donation, but that's still the fact that we don't charge for ticket prices, which there's been debate over the years whether we should change that. And I was one of the ones that thought we should change that. And really now looking back over all the years, it's really one of the biggest gifts we give to Rochester is that we're giving this art form, which has endured for so long, and we don't charge for it. I mean, and we've stayed afloat and are thriving now, even in a time when we don't charge for tickets. And I think the other thing to go off, I think what either Patti or Amanda said was you could be on stage in a show like this with a person who has literally done one show in high school, never a show since, with an Eastman School of Music graduate, and they're on the same stage, sharing the same space, working together collectively. And it doesn't really matter. And the Eastman School grad doesn't care that there's someone who can barely, sing a tune. They're still making music together, which is a beauty. And where do you see that? And any other, honestly, you don't.
Hear, hear.
True. I remember one kid, I forget his name. He played a Frederick for Patti and I. Do you remember him?
Sean Brabant.
Oh my God, he was just a fun kid, but I still remember him one time coming up to me afterwards. He's like, "This is so much better than Eastman. You guys are fun."
That's fun.
Our first production of Mikado, I was standing way in the back by the front doors, and a guy had a crying baby, and he came back and was standing with me in the vestibule, and he said, "My wife dragged me to La Boheme last month. This is better." I just really loved it. So.
I remember Christmas Carol that we recently did, where there were some people in the audience that probably don't get out very often, and they were just sort of enjoying the show physically out loud. But I remember one of the guys in the back, when one of the girls came out, he went, "It's an angel. She's awesome." And she was on stage going, "Yes, I know. This is great." And it was like live audience, live theater. And it was just like, well, that's cool. And no one objected. No one, knew that this guy probably was a little outgoing, but they were just like, we can deal with this. This is good.
One of the things that I think is a key to longevity of this group is that you've got such a deep bench as far as directors, people who are really capable directors. And, so often a community theater group will sort of start to falter because there's like one or two people that are really passionate about directing. And then when they're done, the group is done. But this group has so many talented directors that no one person feels burdened with having to direct over and over and over again.
Very true.
And it seems as though, to me, from my perspective anyhow, a lot of my age peers, a lot of people in my generation in OMP feel sort of almost not obligated, but they want to continue that trend. They want to get on with directing and helping keep OMP going, as time moves on. So that hasn't changed. Hopefully it won't.
Well, Devin and I were trying.
I know you were.
Well, we were trying.
You'll get your chance. February 2021. Stay tuned.
Ah.
What? Well,
And
yeah.
I'd like to get Mary to come over and direct for OMP.
Mary Lyubomisrky?
Yes, that Mary
Yes.
Lyubomisrky. I know
Mary.
she directs with other groups.
Maybe. Who knows?
Just saying.
Hint, hint.
We shall see.
We shall see. Well, any more questions there, Rachel?
No, it's been such a pleasure to just watch your faces watching this classic production. And I have gotten to perform with all of you, work with all of you. And it's been a pleasure of mine and an honor of mine to watch you work and, to share a stage with you. So please don't ever leave. And thank you so much for doing this tonight with us.
Yes.
Pleasure's ours.
I have to
Thank
work
you.
tomorrow, but I hope you guys have fun with tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yes.
we will. Come on, join us tomorrow, everyone, if you would like to see. We have a different panel. Jean Gordon Ryan, Julia Ferrara, Terry Benedict will be on too, and Nancy Galetto, who is another schoolgirl, Nancy Galetto.
Another schoolgirl.
So was
Yep.
Jean.
Yep,
Oh,
Jean
so was
was too,
Jean.
Yeah.
Do you want to join us tomorrow, Mary?
Three little
Two
babes.
schoolgirls, yay!
Well, thank you all, and thank you all audience members as well. We'll see you tomorrow, I hope. And if not, we'll see you someday.
Bye, everybody.
All right.
Goodbye.
Ah.